And we are back for episode 2 of the Doing All Right podcast here at the Crown Global Media headquarters. That's just what I'm calling it,
Yeah.
bro.
Oh, no.
I mean, the mothership, the headquarters. I don't know what I end up calling it, but it's gonna be a cool little name. Brian, we got some things to talk about today. We got the Philadelphia Eagles coming up on Thursday. I kind of hate the idea that we're just in the middle of the week. I would have liked for us to go through a whole week and then we play on Sunday like everybody else. But the Cowboys had to go a couple of days early, so our days are a little off. So this is where we start to break things down. So every week here on Crown Global Media, Doing All Right podcast, we will be breaking down the matchups there. Brian, one thing I want to make a regularity. I don't know if it's going to be Tuesdays or Wednesdays, but I want to look over the injury report.
Yeah.
Okay, for both teams, because throughout the season, guys are going to get hurt. It's bound to happen. The Cowboys had 4 names on theirs.
Right.
I kind of just want to go down that list and talk about some of these guys, because these guys in particular, some of them have played, but some of them haven't been practicing at all.
Right.
So I just kind of want to talk about their impact and have they lost any, roster rankings and things like that. So let's do this, Bryan Broaddus. Brevin Spann Ford.
Yeah.
Full. He was good to go.
Yeah, haven't heard much more about what his situation is with him. I know that, to me, that they were looking at the possibilities of, to continue to have him with Britt Brown over there on the cords, trying to kind of get him back going again. This is something, an injury that he suffered in training camp, and so they're kind of taking their time with him and making sure that he is absolutely healthy and ready to go. They don't want to put him out there and have something happen. The fact that they have Hunter Lipke as kind of that third tight end type of guy, I think it's given him a little bit more time to be able to do that.
Brian, as a football front office guy, what's the difference in practice when some guys are full, other guys are limited, other guys are DNP? Can you kind of break down what that means?
Yeah, when you're talking about like the DNPs, that's just straight did not practice.
Sure.
Those are guys that are probably over there with Britt Brown and working with that crew. When they're limited, maybe they're doing individual stuff. We get them on the field. They're going through like the walkthrough phase. Maybe they go through some of the stuff, but they're not doing the team aspect of things.
Sure.
Full is what it is. It's they've started with the practice with the individuals. Mm-hmm. They've gone through the team periods and all that, so those guys should be good to go.
Brevin is listed as full, so I have a good feeling that we'll be seeing.
He's the practice aspect, like I say of him. They just want to make sure that he's involved. And that they feel good about that. The fact that he is going through that, I know talking to some people in the organization, they were like, okay, we're feeling better about this. Sure. But then with that designation, with the full designation, I think that's a really, really good sign.
Man, Bryan Broaddus, I'm looking at Perrion Winfrey up here. He's at the very top of it as a DNP.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, it has back. Like something's going on with his back.
Yeah.
Now, Micah back, hurt, and he's just fine after a couple of days. Yeah. But I think pre-Kenny Clark, Perrion Winfrey having a back injury and listed as DNP, that may have been significant.
Yep.
You have a Pro Bowl tackle that just shows up out of nowhere last week. Perrion Winfrey is DNP. That's not going to hurt you too bad, is it, Brian?
Well, the thing about it, what we have to think, and talking to some people in the organization, Voch, is that this is a back spasm situation that he's dealing with right now.
Okay.
And it really hasn't gotten better. And so they're going to try and work through some more things. But there was also some talk is that he might not have been active to begin with, which I find very, very surprising. That here's a player that you kind of feel like, okay, this is what we need to do scheme-wise. This is how we need to work. We need to have guys that are upfield players, power players, attacking players. To me, this sounds very much like that what you're going to have is going to be Kenny Clark and then Mazi Smith. If this, even if in fact Winfrey was healthy, that he might have been a scratch here. Sure. Just listening to some people talk. So, I know there's a lot of Mazi Smith, like, well, what are we doing? Winfrey, and I trust me, I feel you over here.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that this is a back spasm situation. It hasn't gotten particularly better, and now it's likely going to be with the game just right around the corner. It's going to be Kenny Clark and Mazi Smith.
So, Bryan Broaddus, you were just alluding to the idea that maybe possibly Winfrey wouldn't be playing anyway. He wouldn't be active anyway.
I find that really difficult.
What does that say about JT though? Like, was he going to be a guy that's going to be around anyway? Maybe they're valuing his size and his whole thing. The whole Mozzie. I'm not here to continuously beat down.
The tackles are where they're long.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to
5 of them.
Yeah, there's going to be tackles. I mean, they're gonna a situation where they probably are. Maybe JT was involved in some of this stuff, and that was maybe that's something that where he was going to be in the mix. Yeah. I kind of felt like that he was probably going to be an inactive guy, is what I felt like.
That's so interesting, Bryan Broaddus. We got somebody knocking at the door here at the Crown Global Media headquarters. We're going to get somebody to work on that. It's all good. Don't even worry about it. We straight. Bryan, it's interesting because based on the film, right, just based on us watching, I would assume that Perrion was the guy that was right after Solomon.
That's what I felt like too. But it's probably going to be, if they're going to address the 4, it's probably going to be Solomon, Osa, and then now probably Mozzie and Clark is what we're looking at right now.
So maybe it came down to the size of the guys, right? Perrion is a smaller upfield guy, so he's similar to Osa and Solomon in that way.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear how that all played out. I mean, I was surprised with the like, well, he probably was going to be inactive anyway, so that kind of thing. So
5 tackles and 5 edges. When we're breaking down film here on Crown Global Media next week, we're going to see how they use some of those guys because it's really interesting that they went so heavy there.
Yeah,
Bryan, we got 2 more big names on the injury report there. We'll start with this one. Tyler Guyton was a guy that was having a fantastic first few portions of camp, dodged a bullet like somebody in the front office said to your golden phone there. We got lucky.
Yeah.
And he'll be ready. He's full go right now. Full practice. So I assume he's going to be
They're going to have to make a decision there, Voch. That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to determine if they, in fact, want to go with Nate Thomas as the starter at left tackle, or are they going to go with Guyton? Guyton has been practicing the last several practices that they've been able to get out there and do. So with all that being said, this is going to be something I'm sure that they're going to try and keep very quiet until we actually get to Thursday and then see how that plays. But there's a decision made because Guyton is ready to play.
Bryan, some of those guys that would line up on the tackles last year for the Eagles, just going back watching that film, it'll be guys like, Milton Williams go line up out there sometimes as 4-eye. Sweat, Josh Sweat, who would tear us up sometimes, whooping Terrence Steele sometimes. He'll be a guy that'll go out there. Graham will be a guy. But those guys are gone, Bryan, bro. So let me ask you this. With names like, I can't even say it, Jalix Hunt. So Jalix Hunt, Nolan Smith, you know what I mean? Those guys aren't Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. Do you feel better that, there may be some turbulence at left tackle right now, but the guys that we're going against, they're not going to be the biggest problems that the Eagles could get for you, right?
Yeah, this is the way that the Eagles are going to operate now is, and there's a really, coming out of Philadelphia, there is some positivity about Jalix Hunt. I mean, they really like him as a player, and you need to be worried when Brandon Graham had suffered some injuries in Week 13. Jalix Hunt was the one that stepped in and did an outstanding job for them, and I think that's the thing that they're feeling like now that's going to carry over for their football team. That what they were able to see towards the end of the season is now what they feel like, and then with what they've done now at training camp, they're very, very confident that in this scheme, and this is a scheme that doesn't blitz a whole heck of a lot.
Sure.
And so now it's about 4-man pressure. I mean, matter of fact, you look at the Super Bowl last year, that was a team that did not blitz Patrick Mahomes at all in that game and was able to create just all kinds of problems for him.
Sure.
So, but we'll see how that Hunt plays out. But I know, talking to some people, they're super excited about him.
Honestly, Bryan, I'm glad that they're excited.
Yeah.
Let it fly.
Yeah.
There's this common thought that I always have, right? Like there's the hard-working players, and everybody can appreciate a good hard-working player, but then there's specimens.
Right.
Shouts out to Will Still, him, I always talk about this. So as far as Tyler Guyton goes, I feel good about Guyton versus a regular good player versus like a hard-working player, maybe a guy that'll give you some effort sacks or something like that. I worry about Guyton when it's like a TJ Watt type, or like it's a Nick Bosa type. Luckily for us, Brian, I don't think the Eagles, on the outside at least, I don't think the Eagles have that special type guy on the outside. Nolan Smith is really good. Hunt is really good, but I don't consider those guys specimens. So I feel good about Tyler Guyton in that matchup.
Do you worry more about Guyton dealing with somebody that plays with power or somebody that plays with finesse? How would you assess? You know, you watched him specifically in training camp before he was injured, and I wanted to know your assessment of him. Was he struggling with Ezaraku more than he was struggling with, say, Nealon or somebody like that plays with a little bit more power?
And that's the interesting thing about Guyton, right? Because you would assume, and it's kind of how it was last year, Brian, when Guyton has to deal with these powerful characters, that's not what he's built for.
Right.
He has some of the best feet that I've ever seen on an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And I was saying that when he was getting whooped last year. So him versus some of these quick or bursty guys, I would feel good about Tyler Guyton in that matchup. But in camp now, it seems like he's using more of his tools versus those power guys, like his length or positioning or just making sure the elbow is tight. So when he was going against guys like Peyton Turner, Marshawn Nealon, things like that, he didn't lose a rep versus those guys.
Right.
He didn't lose a rep at all.
So he looked comfortable handling guys that were trying to maybe bull rush him a little bit.
Long, powerful guys.
Long and powerful guys. See, the thing I would worry about with him is, because we saw some of it during his rookie season, his ability, those guys broke him down. And I was wondering if the guys that were a little bit more of shifty type, the guys that are quick, the guys that will attack his shoulder, if he misses with his hands, his feet, how are all those though? Hands, feet, all that as a former offensive lineman, former offensive line coach.
Yeah.
How do you think that plays out for him? The technique looked a lot cleaner.
Yeah, very much so better than what it was last year. But it takes time for bad habits, right? So luckily with us, with Guyton hadn't really played one thing for 4 years, right? Like if you take a look at Booker, I was more so worried about him because he had been playing, left guard for years. And then he makes the transition to right guard. Switching sides is a little different. So as I took a look at Guyton, he doesn't have a long track record of right tackle or a long track record of left tackle. So as he was making those, just missing with his hands, going a little wide with his hands, those little huggy motions, hands on the back, he did that last year. He did it a lot less this year. Still some, but that's what happens when you get caught up in a fight, right? Like if you're in a high intense fight, you go back to your old habits. But Guyton was very conscious, working the hands independently, shooting the hands. Guyton used to catch people. Now he's shooting and attacking guys, right? So as long as that's in his mind, technically, I thought he looked fine, Bryan Broaddus. But versus different opponents, now he has to be able to put that on the field. And what I was really encouraged about, Brian, is the Cowboys pass rush group. It's a lot of different types of guys.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
So Marshawn's powerful. Peyton Turner has the length. Donovan Ezaraku, quick, bursty. Dante Fowler, veteran. He knows different moves he can, change up and things like that. Sam Williams will run down the middle of you, but that's how that Sam gets down. High effort, right? So I think with those different types of guys that Guyton had to go against in camp, I think he'll be good to go for a Hunt and Nolan Smith.
Yeah, the most important thing, if you could say one thing, what does he need to do? Is it the knee bend or is it getting his hands on those guys quick?
Hands are always important because
when he misses, he's bad.
When he misses, now he's leaning. Now he's falling forward, and now he's on the ground. And Brian hates offensive linemen.
I hate offensive linemen that are on the ground.
As long as he's striking and he's at his landmark, Tyler Guyton's going to be good to go. Man, Brian, I saw this one, man. Look, I looked over. I got my source, but you got a golden phone, and we got the internet, and we see this report. It says Trevon Diggs is practicing in full. Now, Brian, I thought treachery was afoot when the Cowboys started moving all these corners around that we had faith in. Like Keemon Hall, Childress, Israel. I'm like, man, these cornerback moves.
Claiming two guys.
It seemed drastic.
Yeah, it did.
Like,
big swings.
The Cowboys are making drastic moves at corner. Why? You have room to make drastic moves at corner if you feel good about the top of corner. The top of your cornerback room, which is Trevon Diggs. He was a full participant in practice, Bryan Broaddus.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Voch, I was talking to some people in the organization about this last night, and they are leaning towards having him play. And it's not potentially, like I say, it's one of those things where they're feeling really good. We've talked about in our show about how the ramp-up period, was it going to be week 2? Diggs came out on about 75, or I could play in week 4. I think that's some awesome gamesmanship going on by Diggs, to be honest with you there. But to me, talking to people in the organization about it, he has made some really, really nice gains since he started practicing. So the plan is to likely get him involved, find some things, find some packages, find some areas that he could help this team on Thursday night. They've been very encouraged by what they've seen, and hopefully that translates for them to be able to put him out on the field, because all along it was talk about, hey, week 2, that would be 8 weeks for the conditioning period. I think right now they're feeling good enough about him doing some things in this game. It's a matter of finding those things, and maybe it's going to be some of the nickel things that we've talked about. Maybe the Eagles will find a way to get you in a lot of 11 personnel things where he has to be on the field. But right now it's trending very nicely for him playing in this game this week.
Bryan, so packages, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to make an assumption, if we all had to guess, if the Cowboys were going base 2 corners, we would assume it'll be Bland and Elam.
Elam, right.
And then maybe when it's time to go nickel, Diggs may not be the nickel corner, but in the nickel package.
Right.
He'll go out there and get those nickel reps.
Right.
So Bland and Elam would still be the first 2 guys out there, at least until Diggs gets his feet under him, right?
Exactly. That's where it looks like right now. That like I say, it's trending to him being involved in some of those things. And I could say tip of the cap to him for getting that part of the, he took a lot of heat for him being away from the team and working, so, again, tip of the cap, and hopefully he'll be a part of some things. But as you mentioned, Voch, it's going to be about some of the nickel stuff. Can they kick Bland inside? Yes. Can Diggs play on the outside? That's a great possibility. And then we've seen Elam, who's had a really good training camp this year.
Diggs playing for you makes this a whole nother party, right, Bryan Broaddus?
It does. It really does.
At first we're having conversations like, all right, well, there's Bland and Elam. Are we traveling Bland now?
Yeah.
Is Bland going to go with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, size disadvantage maybe? Where does, Weezy and Reddy fit in this thing, right? Shouts out to Matt Eberflus yesterday. He just said Reddy was a guy that's, like, ready to go right now. It's no pun intended, but he's ready to go.
Ready to go.
Because he already knows what's going on. He knows how to work with Eberflus, so he's ready. I don't want to sound like I'm punning, but ready is ready, y'all. But Diggs changes everything. If Diggs is playing for you, I don't want to look at Reddy now. I don't want to hear nothing from Reddy and Weezy if Diggs is playing.
Yeah, I think it could be an interesting change-up for your team this particular game, though. If you want to find a way, maybe it's the way to kind of get Diggs in and out of the game. Sure. Maybe it's a little bit of a different change-up for Nick Sirianni and his offensive staff to have to deal with Reddy and then also Diggs, and you don't know, okay. And the more comfortable that Diggs feels in the game, maybe you just keep going, but at least you have that safety net if something were to happen, that you got a guy that at least Matt Eberflus feels good about.
Do you think Flus is going to operate like Quinn and go, hey, no matter what, we got a gang of corners on the field for no reason? Because if they come out in, let's just say 11, of course we have to match 11 with our nickel, but Quinn would be running run defense out of 11 and dime. Right, Bryan Broaddus? So we all know that the better run defending corners would likely be Bland, would likely be Elam, and even Childress, which is, I'm even more baffled why he wouldn't be a guy that's elevated right now. I think Childress in this game versus Saquon Barkley could really help you in run defense. But do you think that maybe it's a mismatch if Diggs comes on the field and it's like a clear rundown? Like if it's nickel, Diggs is on the field, and all the other rundown situation looks good. And look, I don't even want to poo-poo on Diggs in that way, because if the game's on the line and he's super motivated, he'll go make a tackle then. But I'm talking about the day in, the down in, down out tackles. Like,
he's going to have to prove. He's going to have to prove, because some of the problems that they had, Voch, last year in run defense, we focus on tackles, but focus on the edges, focus on the linebackers, focus on the corners. And let's not act like Bland. Bland at least will try. Yeah. Diggs will try, and you mentioned it when you absolutely have to try. He'll try. But I feel like, though, that Diggs has really got something to kind of prove. Sure. And where's the buy-in? Where's going to be the buy-in from these corners? And I'd like to believe early in the season we will see these guys try and make the effort to play off the edge and do a little bit more tackle-wise.
Brian, I was looking at the injury list.
Yeah.
And I kept squinting at it, right? Because I didn't see Jadon Blue and Miles Sanders on there at all.
Right.
What do you think the running back approach is going to be? How do you think the Cowboys are going to deploy these guys? I know Blue just came off of an injury in the game.
Right.
Maybe he's fine. How do you think that that the running back situation is going to play out?
Yeah, well, you're in a situation right now too where we'll have to see. I think that you'll get Williams as the starter, and as the game goes, will you be able to how will you incorporate Blue into this game? Will Blue be a guy that, do they like the explosiveness? Do they like the ability to catch? Are you worried playing a team, Voch, that doesn't blitz a whole lot? Maybe that gives you a little bit more of courage to play him a little more.
Yeah.
That that if he doesn't have to play, and they're not going to go heavy blitz packages.
Yeah.
Maybe this gives you a little bit more encouragement to play him more on third down. I think that's where Sanders, but there's always, like I say, the Hunter Lipke factor. But I think those are going to be your three. But I would be encouraged if in fact that Vic Fangio is not going to blitz. That gives me more encouragement to play the guy.
Brian, truth or cap?
Okay.
I don't think this is going to be very committee-like, this running back situation.
You're seeing it's going to be Williams to start off the jump, and then his third down, whether it's Sanders or Blue.
I think it's going to be heavy Williams.
Okay.
A ton of Williams.
Yeah.
You may get a carry or two from Sanders. And Blue in special Blue situations.
Yeah.
Sanders is the only character that did nothing in preseason.
Yeah.
We didn't even see him.
Right.
And that kind of tells me a lot. Even Miles Sanders got 8 carries.
Right.
Blue was in preseason.
But Williams,
game 3.
You said Williams wasn't. We didn't see Williams.
We did nothing with Williams.
But we saw, Sanders. Yeah.
So we saw Sanders.
Right.
We saw Blue in game 3, and that probably had more to do with his injury or something like that. Yeah. But they kept Javonte Williams away. And if I had to assume anything from this coaching staff is they want to keep everything a secret until it's time for it to not be anymore.
Right.
I think they're going to deploy Williams a bunch, and I think he's going to be the main guy. Truth or cap?
I think there's some truth to that. I think that, to me, where I want to believe that they're going to do some things with Blue, but I hope it's not one of these forced things.
Yeah.
I hope it's not. I hope there's some natural. And also too, if Williams is in a little rhythm, remember how with we always saw like another running back come in the
Tony
second.
Pollard will be tearing it up,
yeah,
and then Zeke
and then Zeke will show up. I hope that that's not the case. I hope that if a particular back is having a success, if they're having some scheme success, I'd like to believe that they ride with that back. And don't try and force anything. Don't say, oh, well, we got Blue here and we got to do. If Williams or Sanders is having some success, ride with that, and then use Blue how you see fit. Yeah. But make sure though it's about just taking the hot guy. And I think initially in the start of the season, I see your approach until they kind of figure out what they want to do with Blue. But I think they do want to get him incorporated some way.
To be fair though, Bryan Broaddus, let me just be clear here to everybody watching right now. I still think this is going to revolve around Dak and those 2 nuclear missiles that he got lined up on the outside over there. That's really what I think this is going to come down to. But they're going to run the ball at some point. I do believe Shotty when he says we're going to run the ball more.
Yeah.
That don't mean that we'll run first. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that we're going to be primary run team. It just means, hey, we just going to run the ball better than Mike McCarthy did. Dirty Mackin again, right, Bryan Broaddus?
Exactly right.
So, and look, this is something you used to preach all the time, Brian. It could be we airing this thing out in the first 3 quarters of the game.
Right.
We get a comfortable lead, and then we finish the game with running the football.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys that used to kick my ass every year in the Super Bowl era, and it's a long time ago, was a get the lead and then sick that running game on you, and then they would sick their pass rush on you, and then now you were in a world of hurt. That could only be the best method that they do, And as far as hopefully that's something that they can. I do believe this with all my heart as we get ready for this first game.
Sure.
This team is really only going to be as good as its offense.
Yeah.
I think it's going to really have to be about its offense being able to put up points and protect this defense as much as it can until they figure out their pass rush, until they figure out how they're going to play the run, and then how they figure out and get some guys back, health-wise to be able to play this defense. But you're right. It's going to be about the 2 pass rusher, the 2 receivers, the quarterback, and that tight end.
I'm looking at Philly's injury report.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about it too much, but there are some things that are just jumping out at me. The best safety in the draft last year, Andrew Makuba. I'm not patting me on the back, bro, but the best safety draft last year. He's limited with a hamstring. I don't think that's gonna affect him too much. Backup quarterback, backup pass rush, cool. Jalen Carter's full go. Landon Dickerson is a DNP.
Yeah,
but not with the knee. He's DNP with a back.
Oh, okay. So it's something new that popped up.
Something new, Bryan Broaddus. Now, it's already hard to play football when your knee hurt.
Right.
Landon Dickerson's knee and his back hurt. Now, I wouldn't imagine that he's going to miss the game, but how I look at these injury reports is like maybe you'll get to the game and you'll be a little compromised, maybe.
Yeah.
With your bad back and your bad knee. And if y'all go watch the last video that we posted, we broke down some film. Landon Dickerson still likes to lean a little bit.
He does lean.
And if your back hurting, that's leaning look like your back hurt a little bit, Bryan Broaddus. How do you think this Landon Dickerson back and knee injury is gonna, change how the Cowboys operate things?
Well, I think that if you look at, we've talked about with Tyler Steen, that maybe that's where they were going to attack, but we'll see. I can say I do want to believe that we talk about the Cowboys pass rush and these edges, but I will say this: Kenny Clark gives me a little bit of some hope inside.
Sure.
As far as if you could pair him with Osa and you compare him and Solomon Thomas. I think Solomon Thomas showed me some pass rush stuff. But if the Eagles, in fact, are compromised at both guard spots, and then with Cam Jurgens being the center, and Cam Jurgens is a good player, but if you're weakening the middle of your pocket with some backup players, and they could talk about Steen all they want, until we see him. He's the guy with the least amount of experience there. And we saw some opportunity. We saw the breakdown you did yesterday with the Giants. His ability, sometimes he will struggle with power. Mm-hmm. And so if you get guys like the Kenny Clarks and guys that can kind of walk him a little bit, I think that will bode well. But, yeah, you weaken the center of this Eagles pocket. That has to be a concern from them if in fact, that Landon Dickerson doesn't play.
I'm super interested to see how Kenny Clark benefits Osa. Osa never really had a running mate. Like, I think the best player Osa's had next to him was like Malik Collins, Neville Gallimore, or something like that. I'm really excited to see, because if you watch the tape on Clark takes double teams. Like he
does.
He'll eat them up and still beat them, right? What does Osa look like with more one-on-one opportunities? It was plenty of times last year film. Osa's getting double teamed in there, or like Osa's just in A gap in general. And I don't want to see Osa. I don't think he's big enough for A gap. He's powerful, so he can live in there, but I don't want to see him there all the time. Bryan, you lose Micah. I don't even know if Micah was much of a running mate for Osa in particular. Right. But how do you think Kenny Clark benefits Osa?
Well, I think that, to me, with Osa's ability to attack, attack the gap. And like I said, maybe it turns into all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe we're more worried initially about Osa than we are Kenny Clark, and then maybe Kenny Clark, because we've seen game film where Kenny Clark one-on-one has been able to win. Before he was dealing, he's dealing with that toe injury, and I felt like as the season wore on, it was more difficult for him to have to play. But if you can watch some of those early season games, Kenny Clark was wrecking shop inside. That Rams game, I went right to it, and just to kind of see how that was playing. And he was all over the place. This is a guy that's had 7.5 sacks in his career. He's had 4 sacks in his career from the defensive tackle spot. So how Osa, if Osa, in fact, if teams say, hey, we need to worry about Osa more, then maybe he's going to see those double teams there, and then they're going to play Kenny Clark one-on-one. That power, especially if you get Kenny Clark on the right guy, then maybe that's where you can take advantage of him on those one-on-one matchups, and I think that's where it helps him.
I am super excited to see what this defense looks like, and you lose Micah, sure, but
the pressures. See, that's the thing that Dallas is going to have to come up with. I mean, that's like 24% of your pressures is Micah Parsons. So, they're going to have to figure that out. The pressures create, turnovers, lead to sacks. That's what they're going to have to work on.
Yeah. Hey, we'll cross that bridge whenever we get there. Hopefully, Trevon Diggs being healthy would help some of your pass rush woes there, Bryan Broaddus. But hey, this is our follow-up episode. It's no longer the inaugural, so now I can say we are back with some confidence. I'm shaking hands. We gonna finish every episode with a handshake because I can touch Bryan Broaddus now. first of all, thank you all so much for watching our show yesterday. You guys responded to it very well, very fantastically, so we appreciate y'all. But I saw 30,000 y'all ass on that video yesterday, so we need y'all to hit that sub, you feel me? So that y'all can get the updates and everything, because we're going to be constantly doing stuff here. Podcast, film, and the more that Crown Global grows, is going to be a lot more content for you guys, all right? So be sure to hit the sub, hit the like, follow Crown social media pages. That's Bryn Broaddus, and I'm VOCHLOMBARDI. We love y'all to pieces. Till next time, Crown.